The line that broke a mother. The clock struck 8 in the evening, and the golden lights of the house flickered softly through the rain-speckled. Welcome to my YouTube channel, A Story a Day. Don't forget to subscribe. Windows. I stood by the kitchen counter, drying my hands with an old towel, listening to the faint laughter coming from the living room. That laughter used to make my heart feel warm. It reminded me of how my son, Ryan, used to laugh when he was a child, carefree, loud, full of life. But tonight that laughter didn't belong to him alone. It belonged to Emily, his wife, the woman I once believed would become like a daughter to me. Instead, she became the wall between us. I could hear her voice, sharp and commanding, as she teased Ryan about how his mother still treated him like a boy. He laughed, not nervously, not awkwardly, but naturally, as if he agreed. That laughter cut me deeper than any word could. I took a deep breath and turned off the stove. Dinner was ready. The aroma of roasted chicken filled the house. His favorite meal, one I'd been making since he was 5. I called out softly, "Dinner's ready." No answer. I waited, then called again, a bit louder. "Ryan! Emily, the food will get cold." From the living room, Emily's voice drifted in, thick with sarcasm. "We'll come when we're ready, Mom." Mom. The word sounded like an insult from her mouth. When they finally came to the table, Ryan pulled out a chair for her first. He smiled at her like she was the only person in the world. She didn't even look my way. I tried to ignore the sting and served the plates. As I placed the chicken in front of her, she frowned. "You made it too dry again." "I told you last week I don't like overcooked meat." I froze, spoon in hand. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I didn't realize." "You never realize," she cut in. "You just do whatever you want, don't you?" Ryan's eyes flicked between us. It's fine." "No, it's not fine," she snapped, turning to him. "Every time I say something, she acts like I'm being rude. Maybe she just doesn't want to accept I'm your wife now." I clenched my hands beneath the table, my knuckles white. I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall. "Emily, I've never—" She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You've never what? Never judged me? Never looked down on me because I wasn't the kind of daughter-in-law you wanted?" Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. "Please, both of you, can we just eat peacefully?" But peace was long gone from this house. After dinner, I cleared the table while they went upstairs. I could hear their voices again, muffled but sharp. I didn't want to listen, yet every word reached my heart. "She needs to stop interfering," Emily said. "This is our house now, not hers. Our house." I closed my eyes and steadied myself against the sink. Our house? This house had been built brick by my husband and me. My husband, God rest his soul, worked double shifts for years so we could give our son a future, a safe home. When he passed away, I held on to this house because it was all I had left. And then, when Ryan got married, I offered it to him, to them, saying, "It's still your father's home. I'll live in the guest room. You'll fill this house with new life." I never imagined I would one day feel like a stranger here. The next morning, I found Emily in the living room, scrolling through her phone, still in her nightgown. She looked up when I walked in. "Morning," I said softly. She didn't reply. I decided to ignore it and started tidying the room. A few seconds later, she said, "You don't have to clean. I hired a cleaner for Saturdays." "Oh," I replied. "That's nice. I know what you were just doing," she interrupted. "Trying to show me I'm not good enough to manage the house." I turned slowly. "That's not what I meant. Her smirk widened. "You always have an excuse, don't you?" Before I could answer, Ryan walked in, adjusting his tie. "Good morning," he said, kissing her forehead. "You look beautiful." Emily smiled sweetly. "Thanks, love. But your mom was just criticizing me again." Ryan's expression hardened. "Mom," my heart sank. "Ryan, that's not true. He raised his hand slightly, not to hit, but to stop me. That gesture broke me more than a slap ever could. "Mom," he said in a tone I barely recognized. "You promised to give us space. Please, don't start another argument." My voice trembled. "You believe her over me?" He didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. That night, I sat on my bed, holding my late husband's photo. "You'd know what to say," I whispered. "He doesn't see it, does he?" "She's turning him against me." A tear rolled down my cheek, landing on the glass frame. "I can't lose him too." I didn't realize Emily was standing by the door. Her arms were folded, her expression unreadable. "You know crying doesn't make you right," she said coldly. I jumped slightly, embarrassed. "I didn't hear you come in." "Of course you didn't," she said. You were too busy playing the victim again. I frowned. Emily, please. No, she said firmly, stepping closer. You've been trying to make Ryan feel guilty. You make him believe he owes you his life. But this is our home now, and I won't let you ruin it. I would never ruin his happiness, I said quietly. He's my son. Then prove it, she hissed. Leave us alone. The next day, she made sure Ryan saw me accidentally break one of her new vases. It was old, fragile, and she'd placed it right at the edge of the table. When it shattered, she screamed dramatically, "Oh my God! That was a gift from my mother." Ryan came running. What happened? I just bumped into the table, I said quickly, bending to clean the shards. But Emily grabbed my wrist. You did it on purpose, she accused. You've hated me since day one. That, not true? Ryan's face twisted with anger. Mom, you need to apologize. My heart stopped. Apologize? For what? For breaking her things, he said. For disrespecting her. I stared at him in disbelief. Ryan, it was an accident. You know me. Apologize to my wife, he said again, his voice louder, firmer, colder. Or get out of my house. Silence. The world stopped moving. The boy I had raised, the boy who once held my hand when crossing the road, now stood before me like a stranger. Emily folded her arms, satisfied. She looked at him with a victorious smile, and he didn't even notice. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. You're asking your own mother to leave? He looked away. I'm asking you to stop disrespecting my wife. My tears finally fell. Ryan, I raised you alone after your father died. I gave you everything, and I'm grateful, he interrupted. But that doesn't mean you can treat my wife badly. I never did, I whispered. You're just too blind to see. He turned away, muttering, enough. I could hear the finality in his tone. It was over. That night, I packed my suitcase quietly. Each fold of clothing carried years of memories, the sound of his laughter. His first day of school, the meals we shared. I paused by his childhood photo on the dresser. His little face smiled back at me, innocent and full of love. I kissed the frame softly. I'll always love you, my son, even when you forget who I am. As I walked out of the house, the rain began to fall, soft, gentle, almost as if the sky was crying with me. My footsteps echoed on the porch as I pulled my shawl tighter. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because behind that door was not my son anymore, only a man too blinded by love to see his mother's tears. Still, deep down, I whispered one last prayer. May she never make him cry the way he made me cry tonight. When regret comes home, rain fell endlessly that night, whispering against the windows as if the heavens themselves mourned. I didn't go far, just a small rented room near the market, above a bakery. The smell of bread filled the air every morning, but even that warmth couldn't touch the cold that had settled inside me. Days turned into weeks. No calls, no messages, no sign of my son. Every night, I sat by the window watching the same streetlights flicker and thought about him, wondering if he still remembered that I existed. I didn't hate Emily. No, hate is too strong a word. I pitied her. She had everything, youth, beauty, and the love of a man I raised to be kind. But she used that love as a weapon. She didn't realize that when you tear a mother from her son, you don't win. You just destroy the very heart of the home. One morning, Mrs. Parker, the old lady who ran the bakery, knocked on my door. You've been sitting alone too long, dear, she said kindly. Come downstairs, have tea with me. I smiled faintly. I'm fine, Mrs. Parker. But she frowned. You're not. You look like someone who's lost something she'll never get back. Her words were simple, but they hit hard. I nodded slowly and followed her downstairs. The smell of coffee filled the air, and for a moment, I almost felt normal. As we talked, she asked, Do you have children? I hesitated. Yes, one son. And where is he now? My eyes filled instantly. Home, I whispered, but not my home anymore. She reached across the table, patting my hand gently. They always come back, dear. Maybe not when we want them to, but they do. Back at the house, Ryan's life seemed perfect, at least from the outside. He went to work, came home to Emily, and they smiled for photos, laughed at dinner parties, and posted pictures captioned, My everything. But behind closed doors, cracks were starting to show. Emily had gotten used to getting her way. Without me around, no one questioned her spending, her friends, her choices. Ryan began noticing the bills piling up, the way she snapped when he asked questions, the way she stayed out late with vague excuses. Emily, he said one night, you've been distant lately. Is something wrong? She sighed dramatically. You're always accusing me of something. Maybe I just need space. Space? He repeated softly. We're married. She rolled her eyes. Exactly. Married, not chained. Ryan stared at her, trying to understand. For the first time, he saw a flicker of the truth behind the mask. The selfishness he'd refused to see before. Weeks later, he came home early one evening and found her on the phone, laughing. She didn't hear him come in. Yes, baby, she said softly. I'll meet you tomorrow. Don't worry, he's too stupid to notice. Ryan froze. His heart dropped into silence. The world spun around him as realization hit. The woman he had defended, fought for, and chosen over his mother was betraying him. He stepped back slowly, his mind screaming, "No, it can't be true." But deep down he knew. The truth had been there all along. He just hadn't wanted to see it. That night, he sat on the edge of the bed, waiting. Emily came home hours later, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. "Where were you?" he asked quietly. She didn't even look guilty. "With friends." He looked at her long and hard. "Emily, I heard you. On the phone." For a second, her mask slipped. Then she laughed, cold and careless. "So what? You think you're the perfect husband? Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your mother, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." Ryan's eyes burned. "Don't talk about my mother." She smirked. "Why, does it hurt?" "Because you were the one who told her to leave. You said, 'Apologize or get out.' You chose me. You don't get to act like the victim now." Her words were like poison. Every syllable was a reminder of his sin. He stood there trembling, his chest tightening. "Get out," he whispered. She blinked. "What?" "Get out of my house." For once he used the same tone, but this time it wasn't cruel. It was broken. Emily stared at him, realizing she had pushed too far. But it was too late. He didn't shout again. He just walked to the window and whispered, "You were right. I was too blind." When she finally left, the silence that filled the house was unbearable. Every room echoed with emptiness and guilt. Ryan sat on the couch, staring at his mother's old chair. It still had her knitting basket beside it, untouched. He picked up the yarn and pressed it to his face, inhaling the faint scent of lavender. Her scent. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "Mom," he whispered, "what have I done?" For days he tried to find me, but I had changed my number, and the housekeeper from the bakery said she didn't know where I'd gone. Fate, however, had its own timing. One rainy afternoon, Ryan was driving home from work when he saw Mrs. Parker struggling with boxes. Outside her bakery, he pulled over to help. "Thank you, young man," she said, smiling. "You remind me of someone, the son of one of my tenants." Kind eyes, same smile. He froze. "Tenant? Do you mean an older woman? Lives upstairs." Mrs. Parker nodded. "Yes, poor dear. Her name's Margaret?" He finished in a whisper. Her smile faded. "Yes, you know her?" He swallowed hard. "She's my mother." That evening he stood in front of the small door above the bakery, his heart pounding. His hand trembled as he raised it to knock. The door opened before he could. I stood there holding a mug of tea, my face thinner, older, but still the same mother who once kissed his forehead goodnight. "Mom," he breathed. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. I blinked, unsure if he was real. "Ryan?" He nodded, tears spilling down his face. "I'm so sorry." I froze, my throat tightening. "Why are you here?" He stepped closer, voice breaking. "Because I made the biggest mistake of my life. I let the wrong person into my heart and pushed out the one who loved me most." I turned away, tears burning my eyes. "Ryan, don't." But he fell to his knees, holding my hands tightly. "Mom, please. I can't undo what I said, but I'll spend my life trying to make it right. Please come home." For a long moment I said nothing. The pain I had buried came rushing back, mixed with the longing that never truly left. I lifted his face gently, the same way I did when he was little. "You hurt me, Ryan, not with your words, but with your choice." "I know," he whispered. "And I'll never forgive myself if you don't." I sighed softly. "Forgiving you isn't the hard part. It's forgetting." He helped me pack my things that evening, just a small bag. As we drove back, I looked out the window at the city lights, thinking about all that had happened. When we reached the house, I hesitated before stepping inside. The same walls, the same pictures, but everything felt different, quieter. Ryan followed me in. "I threw her things out," he said quietly. "Every single one." I nodded slowly, my voice trembling. "Ryan, I didn't want that. I just wanted my son back." He smiled sadly. "You've always had him. I was just too blind to see." He guided me to the couch, my old spot. and placed a cup of tea beside me. I made it the way you like it. 2 spoons of sugar. I laughed softly through my tears. You remember? I remember everything now, he said, sitting beside me. I remember who taught me kindness, who stayed up when I was sick, who gave up her dreams so I could live mine. He looked at me, eyes glistening, and I remember the day I lost her because of my own pride. That night we sat together in silence, the sound of rain once again filling the house. But this time it wasn't lonely. He rested his head on my shoulder, just like when he was a boy. I love you, Mom, he whispered. I smiled softly, stroking his hair. I know, my son. I always knew. Outside thunder rumbled, but inside there was peace. Because sometimes love returns, not to erase the past, but to heal what pride once broke. The price of love. It had been 3 months since I moved back home. The house that once felt like a battlefield now breathed again. Soft, quiet, peaceful. The morning sun touched every corner, and for the first time in years, I heard laughter echo through the halls, not from guests or empty smiles, but from the heart. Ryan and I fell into an easy rhythm. He made coffee. I made breakfast. We talked about everything, except the past. Some wounds didn't need words. They healed through small kindnesses. Every time he looked at me, I saw regret still haunting his eyes. And every time I smiled at him, I hoped my silence told him, I forgave you. One Sunday morning as we ate together, Ryan suddenly said, Mom, do you ever think about Dad? I smiled softly. Every day. He nodded. I wish he was here. He'd know what to say, how to make things right faster. I chuckled faintly. He'd probably scold you first, then hug you. Ryan grinned. Yeah, sounds about right. We both laughed. It was the kind of laughter that comes after too many tears, fragile but full of life. He leaned back, looking at me. Mom, I've been thinking about something. I want to sell the company. I blinked. Sell it? But you worked so hard to build it. I did, he said quietly, but it doesn't make me happy anymore. I want to start something that actually means something, maybe a foundation for single mothers, or for women who've been pushed aside like you were. Tears welled in my eyes. Oh, Ryan. He reached across the table, holding my hand. I want to make things right, not just with you, but with the world. I squeezed his hand gently. You already started, son. You came home. That afternoon we went to the garden. It was overgrown with weeds, neglected during the months I'd been gone. Together we cleaned it up, just like we used to when he was a child. I showed him how to plant new roses, and he teased, You still remember all the tricks, huh? I laughed. Mothers never forget. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I watched him kneeling in the dirt, sweat on his forehead, eyes full of purpose. I realized something. He wasn't the same man who'd told me to get out. He was my little boy again, just grown into a man who had finally learned humility. I whispered a small prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for giving me my son back. But fate always finds a way to test love. A few weeks later, I began feeling dizzy. At first, I ignored it, telling myself it was just fatigue. I didn't want to worry Ryan, but the spells grew worse. One morning, I collapsed in the kitchen. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, and Ryan sat by my side, his face pale and frightened. Mom, his voice broke. You scared me. Don't ever do that again. I smiled weakly. I'm fine, sweetheart. But the doctor's expression told another story. He explained gently that it was a heart condition, not critical yet, but serious enough that I needed rest and medication. Ryan's eyes filled instantly. She'll be okay, right? With care and no stress, the doctor said. She'll live a long time. Ryan turned to me, gripping my hand. You hear that? You're not leaving me again. Not ever. I chuckled softly. I'll try my best. After coming home, Ryan became protective, almost too much. He cooked, cleaned, and scolded me if I tried to lift anything heavier than a teacup. Ryan, I laughed one morning. You're fussing more than I ever did when you were sick. He grinned. Guess I learned from the best. Our bond grew stronger than ever. Sometimes we sat in silence, just appreciating that we still had time. He would tell me about his plans for the foundation, and I could see light returning to his eyes. One evening, as rain pattered softly on the roof, the same sound from that night months ago, he said quietly, Mom, do you ever think I deserve forgiveness? I looked at him, my heart swelling with love. Deserve? No one ever truly deserves forgiveness. Ryan, but you earned mine the moment you came back and meant it. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I wish I could go back and undo it all. I smiled. If you could, you'd never learn. Pain teaches what comfort hides. He nodded, tears in his eyes. You're still teaching me even now. And I always will, I whispered. One bright morning we visited the cemetery, his father's resting place. The wind was calm, the sky a pale blue. Ryan placed fresh flowers on the grave, kneeling quietly. He said softly, "Dad, I nearly lost her, because I forgot what you both taught me. That love isn't proven by choosing sides, but by keeping peace." I stood beside him, my eyes glistening. "He'd be proud of you now." Ryan looked up at me, smiling through tears. "Only because of you, Mom." We stayed there for a long time, letting the silence speak. When we left, I felt lighter, as if some invisible weight had finally lifted. Months passed. My health stabilized. Ryan's foundation began taking shape. Newspapers wrote about his story. Businessmen turned heartbreak into hope. But behind all the headlines, our greatest victory was simpler: forgiveness. Every night, he made me tea and sat beside me as we talked about little things. Not money, not pain, just life. One night he said, "Mom, do you know what hurts most?" "What, my dear?" "That I can't erase the words I said, apologize, or get out. Every time I think of that moment, it burns." I placed my hand on his. "Then let it burn, as a reminder of who you never want to become again." He looked at me, eyes soft. "You're too good for me." I smiled faintly. "No, I'm just your mother. That's what we do. Love you even when you break our hearts." One rainy evening, the same kind of night that had once divided us, Ryan walked into the living room carrying an old photo album. "Remember this?" he said, sitting beside me. "My 10th birthday." I laughed, flipping through the pictures. "You were covered in cake." He grinned. "You made that cake from scratch, even though you were working double shifts. You never told me how tired you were back then." I touched his cheek gently. A mother's tiredness disappears when her child smiles. He rested his head on my shoulder again, like he used to. "I don't deserve you, Mom," I whispered. "Maybe not, but God still gave me you." A few months later, during a charity event for his foundation, Ryan gave a short speech. I sat in the front row, my heart bursting with pride. He said, voice steady but emotional, "There was a time I let pride destroy the one love that never asked for anything in return. A mother's love. I once told her to leave my house. Today I stand here because she let me come back home. This foundation is for her, for every mother who's ever been told she's not needed anymore." The audience stood in applause, but I could hardly see them through my tears. My boy had finally found his heart again. When he came down, I hugged him tightly. "Your father would have cried," I whispered. Ryan smiled softly. "Then I'm glad I did it right." That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you, Lord, for giving me another chance, not to live longer, but to love deeper." Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky cleared, revealing a moon brighter than I'd seen in years. And as I drifted into sleep, I thought about how pain had once filled this house, and now only peace remained. Because forgiveness didn't change the past. It healed it. And love made it all worth remembering.